And then he said after that, punch me and see what happens. Now,
but that was because the guy touched him.
He touched him. Then he said, punch me and see what happens.
Right. So Dave, do you think it's problematic?
So did he punch him? Sorry.
No. He didn't.
So what happened after Austin touched him? Then Carmelo said, punch me and see what happens. What happened then? What made him?
And then he tried to move him. Like he tried to grab him to move him.
So Austin tried to grab. He put his hands up and tried to grab him. So he didn't just touch him. He grab him. Move.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's not in Austin's. That's why I go back to whether the authority to enforce or not. That's not Austin's, position to enforce.
That's fine, but does it justify
another minor from
the lethality?
Right. But that's one thing. So does stand your ground apply in this situation? Somebody grabs you and tries to move you from a place.
And my counter argument is that Carmelo already started this movie already. Like Carmelo already initiated this, provoked this interaction already. So that's my argument. That he's to blame.
Escalated it.
No, he started the whole thing.
What?
My goodness. Why is this so hard to know?
How can he start something if someone's coming up and saying, hey man, I'm going to need you to move from under our tent?
Exactly.
The guy was reportedly 90 pounds over his weight, right? It's raining outside, so then he goes, it's in the police report. I put the link there.
In the police report, it says he's 90 pounds over his weight.
In the police report, it states what Carmelo's height and weight is. And in Austin's stats are online.
You're just adding on top.
I'm not adding. I thought he was 60 pounds over his weight.
It did sound like you were suggesting that particular verbiage was in the police report. Because Smolin was, pointing directly to verbiage.
Carmelo's is there, but Austin's is online. I posted them a while ago.
In most legal cases, that's not going to fly anyway. Like height and weight and size differences isn't usually going to apply very much.
I don't know why they keep on mentioning this when the only person who had the knife.
No, it's not.
The reason why the threats canceled out is because somebody armed themselves. So, for example, Don, I'm 6'7", I'm 270 right now. You would say, oh, he's intimidating. But would you feel the same way with the bazooka? If you had a bazooka? Of course not. You'd be like, I hope this dude try to test me right now.
Yeah, but that means, yes, I would, because that I have a choice. Am I going to use that bazooka? And that's my responsibility.
But you would no longer be in fear because you have an option to terminate me.
The height and weight arguments in some cases might sway the opinions of juries and things like that, but it usually isn't going to, lead a prosecutor or a DA to assign or not assign certain charges.
Man, I can't believe that you used the shuffle thing. So, bro, what the hell was that, bro?
I didn't shuffle shit.
What the freak was that, bro?
Nothing. Two stabbing. That wasn't a shuffle.
That was a...
Did the other bonds report that I gave you credit some more or not?
About what? I got
Changing my mind.
Oh, no, I didn't get it.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, no.
You know what? Where's my...
So, you proved the actual mens rea of the entire case, of the entire action, right? The action was the stabbing, which is criminal in nature, but you have to prove the criminal intent. And for him to use provocation and provoking language is enough to prove the intent. That self-defense is not a viable option anymore. At all.
You don't know that there's a video and you haven't seen it.
It does not matter. If the transcript and the conversation is touch me and find out, that is provoking an action. That's no longer self-defense.
That's true.
That's looking for a response. And he was looking for a response. He's a kid, you fucked up. He's a hot-headed kid. He's an athlete.
So if
Been
I
there.
stand in
I
front of
understand
you,
how it is. I played sports in high school. Wasn't good
okay,
enough to play in
fine, you
college.
guys have big dicks, that's great.
No, my big ass.
If I stand in front of you, you tell me. No, my God.
No, he's right. That is in the eyes of the law provocation.
So if I stand in front of you and tell you to punch
Yes.
me.
Yes.
And then I punch you.
Punch me and find out. Yeah.
Yes, and you punch me back, and then take self-defense down.
No, I don't touch you and you punch me.
I mean, I think just on the proportionality requirement for a self-defense claim in Texas, I think it falls flat. Because the force used has to be proportionate to the threat faced.
That's not entirely
I
true.
don't
because the thing is,
how
argue.
being pushed is proportional to being stabbed.
That's easy. That's
Are
easy.
you losing control in the moment, right?
That can be argued.
Yeah. So
But how?
I still subscribe to the
If
concept.
he's saying, basically, touch me and see what happens, and he has his hand in the bag.
It's just that
Because-
phrase that causes him to be guilty.
Well, and also to your point, shoving somebody that could be lethal as well. You can fall over, you can hit your head. You don't have to wait around for the person to rise.
It has nothing to do with
The
that.
proportionality. If you were on the street, right, all things being equal, you're on the street, you're a public property, there's no question about domain or authority or who can say who can leave or who can't leave. And the person is lawfully in possession of a weapon. If somebody comes up to me and starts shoving me up against a wall or pushing me or inhibiting my movement, that's not even just assault, that's battery. And you're creating a condition in which you can use force to defend yourself. I think the problem here is he wasn't supposed to be in possession of that weapon on that property either, so that also precludes him from a self-defense claim. If you're in unlawful possession of the item that you're utilizing to defend yourself, you've already precluded yourself from.
I'm looking at this differently now. I used to think like, no, there's no way you can.
I can't believe they kicked me. How annoying. I'll just have to go back with another burner account and wait the next hour out. So stupid. It's like, why bother kicking when you know there's a million burner accounts out there that just come right back in? It actually makes the game more fun. Where are you, my little friends? Chillism, 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 chillism.
That's wild. I don't get ghost notifications, but yeah,
And
I admit so it's just nice social rooms.
I need to go to bed, but I just want to check out one other thing with you, Geronimo. Just check this out, which is I really, my experience when I've come into Russ's spaces, both the two main spaces, have been that this is like almost a family. This has really become a family. which I have, as I said before.
It's a family.
Respect for it. I mean, I think what it takes to create a space like that, create that level of safety and, reciprocity and collaboration is just phenomenal. I'm interested in knowing whether you felt at all protective of that space tonight, that suddenly that was kind of your guys' space and now other people were in there sort of presenting some other stuff in kind of like in your family room. I don't know that I'm way too tired to try to articulate this, but I want to ask that of you.
I think I get the gist of what you're saying. If you take away one thing about the poetry community, is we welcome all first time writers. We have people in the community who are suffering from or coming from battling a stroke, and their language is delayed or more difficult than what it was before. And we take the time out and we listen to them intently. People from every walk of life in every area. The poetry community of all things on this app is extremely open to newcomers. We encourage people to write because we know, for one, we expanding our community and listening to people is our key component. So, and we know that listening can be healing to be heard, and we know that expressing yourself in a healthy manner is great. It's human. It's loving on someone without it being intrusive. Just to take the time out to listen. So, no, we definitely are open to anybody and everybody. Just having, as long as they have respect for the space and understand we maintain a certain level in the spaces of decency, respect, and those type of things. Keep it a safe space, a truly safe space.
Well, yeah, I guess I that's not really what I meant. I mean, my personal experience has been exactly what you're describing. Whenever I come to the space, I feel exactly what you're sharing. And that's just so you know, that's my 40 years of my life has been spent doing exactly what you're talking about. That's what my work is, and that's what my life has been about. So that's why I respect what happens in there so much, and it feels very welcoming and very inclusive. So I hear you. What I was asking was whether you felt, or whether you or if you feel any of the poets in that space felt like there was an intrusion on any level tonight of this space becoming something different with new other people modding it with a different agenda than what normally happens in there. That was my question.
Oh, well, absolutely not, because that's like challenging a poet's mind to, like, you know how we get prompts. Right. So this is a prompt of a different order, a completely different order. So this may require you to click over into the other half of your hemisphere, not so more creative. Touch on some of the hard sciences or concrete ideas instead of being so abstract. It just you I don't know if you ever seen the movie Dodgeball, but they had a coach on there. He said, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a dodgeball. He started throwing wrenches at the students. I think as far as poetry goes, we carry that philosophy, and so we think that anything that's different strengthens our pen and our ability to write and become better poets.
Cool. Oh, that's great. All right, well,
as long as it's not pro-Trump.
I'm sleep since I can't even talk. Thanks for the experience tonight, Brian.
You got it. Take care, Al.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Bye, Dr. Al.
Good night. Lots of love.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Sweet dreams, princess.
How's everybody else doing this fine evening after that room?
Well, pretty much in and out. I wasn't sure if I was called on to do anything.
No, you're all good. It was very much a lot of people. You know, it was a bigger room, so a lot of people were in and out. But yeah, I think it was just nice and chill and exploring this for the first time.
I wish I could. I'm sorry, but
No, it was nothing relevant. It was today or yesterday.
The room just happened just before
Just right now. Oh.
we're coming here. Yeah, it's just like a couple minutes ago. You missed out by just a few minutes, Lisa.
and I was working the whole time, so I didn't get a chance to really participate or soak in the room. But I definitely wanted to be there, to be in, to see what it was. Curiosity.
Dave Coleman that I missed it.
It was audacious, to put it mildly.
Alright.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I liked it. I think it turned out pretty good. The only I know this is very strange. My only criticism I've always had of the poetry community is that sometimes I'm worried that the criticisms won't be. It's so supportive that sometimes you don't get that honest. Like, you know what? No, that wasn't very good.
No.
You gotta do better.
No, that was pro-Trump. No way.
Was that good? Like, you know,
Was that too conservative?
From their country.
Yeah. So, brother, here's what you're doing.
Not necessarily. We don't like people. I mean, don't they?
Understand?
It's Caucasian, but they're not from the Caucasus.
Correct.
Yeah. So hold on. So we understand when you say black, you're talking about a term that's used in America that talks about African descendants of slavery. African descendants of slavery. That's what you're referring to as black. When we're talking about
a lot of them.
yeah. So Africans that come over here, they're distinct because they still have their culture intact, right?
100%.
Right. So now that's what you're battling over. So we're not different from them genetically. We are kinda. I'll explain that a little bit later. But we're different from them culturally. They have a different cultural outlook. Their culture don't merge with American culture. We're like 70-80% single parent home, mainly females. They uphold the education differently than we do. They uphold the different moralities than we do. They adhere to a different type of Christianity than we do. So we're not the same culture, right? We're not. So. But that's the whole thing. But genetically, we come from West Coast of Africa, or Central Africa, or something.
So I don't agree with that. Go ahead.
Oh, my mic sound terrible.
So I was trying to talk. Go ahead.
No, yo, nigga got hot is good. You're just a little.
I got hot
close.
too.
A little too close.
Oh, yeah. So how's it now?
Much better, brother.
All right. So yeah,
and you're cooking, by the way, bro.
Yeah, that's the truth. So with the average African American male, 2/3 of us are going to test E1B1A. Another third of us is going to be something else. Why? Because it's America. We admix, you know what I'm saying? Somebody could have had
That's the problem right there.
Well, it's not a problem. It's America. Like the same thing can be said of any race. Any race has that admixture percentage. Japanese Americans who come over here, or Japanese that come over here, and they become Japanese American. That girl may marry a black man, or that man may marry a black girl, or they might marry a white man or white woman. You know what I'm saying? That's just America. You know, you go to college, you meet somebody, nobody really cares about race at that point.
I mean, I hear you, right? And I'm glad you brought up the DNA thing because it's true that they have a correlation. But this is the biggest problem. When it comes to the books, the records, the family stories, we do not have any lineage from Africa at all.
What?
You don't have anything. There's no black person that can go from this time back to Africa. Not one black person.
I can't.
Sure there is, bro.
One second.
Sure there is.
Even so, why do you not like Africans? Why are you racist?
So first of all, I'm not. It's not
Racist!
Africans. I'm saying the slave trade story that they gave us.
It is not right. How do you...
Okay, bro. Let me ask you a question, man.
Okay. You ever heard of a book called The Story of a Negro?
Yes.
Of a Negro? Okay, who wrote that book?
I'm not sure of the author, but I know what you're talking about.
Booker T. Washington wrote that book.
Okay. All right. What were you saying about that?
Somebody muted me up. So that's not true what you just said. We cannot trace ourselves back. Bro, you do know that in Louisiana, Gullah Geechee, we get the whole thing about what Southern blacks practice. That come from African voodoo. Like the stuff they practice in the Caribbean, that came from African voodoo.
So tell me this: what was our names and our language before they stopped us from reading and talking?
It depends, because even when you go back to West Africa and check this out, you're not gonna have a consistency there either. You know why? Because you had Islam, you had Mohammedans that came in, you had Christianity that came in. Well, if you were still in West Africa, the language you probably be speaking is a combination of your native language and a little bit of Arabic. That's a fact. Because when Islam came through, that came through 700 years before the transatlantic slave trade. And the trans-Saharan slave trade was already there 1,400 years.
Thank you, because the Arabs were actually the root of the slave trade. Because they were enslaving Africans a long part of history, and they don't talk about that.
That's a fact. But here's the problem we're gonna have. There's a geographer by the name of Al Yacobi. He studied something was called the Diwan, which is an Arabic chronicle of what the people actually believe there. The House of States is of the Yoruba people. They already testified they've been there before the Arabs came there. So our DNA is actually older there than before the Arabs came.
So when you say our DNA, you talking about like what connects like the Igbo tribe or like
Igbo?
E1B1A comes from the highlands of Ethiopia. That's EV38. That's
the highlands of Ethiopia.
Chromosome that passes from father to son to father to son.
Perfect. So what is that gap that they don't tell us about? Remember you said like the two-thirds?
It's a gap between the Ethiopian highlands that go straight to Wakanda.
Males are E1. One third of African American males are sold because of slavery and or, your mom married a white man, or your great grandma married a white man.
But they don't know, or they say they don't know that one third though. Right?
Talking about that. No, they do know. If you go and get a genetic test, a real one, you can find out what your Y is.
Correct. Well, all I'm saying is I know what you're talking about, right? So we have A1B1A, which is basically us. But there's another one that they don't talk about.
No, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. When I say E1B1A, that's the male Y haplogroup from Africa. Let's say back in the day, your mom, or not your mom, but your dad's grandmother was raped by a white man on a plantation. All right, now you a black man in America, but guess what haplogroup you got? You got a white R, or you got an R1B, or some other type of haplogroup that comes from Europe. You a black American, all that. But going back a couple of generations, you could have a great-great-grandfather that's white.
So let me ask you this though. What about the natural Aboriginal Black Indians, which I know they were Black Indians that were kept out and kicked out? Correct?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
So listen, it's called the triangle slave trade. Listen, everybody knows that term. Triangle slave trade. You know why? West Africa to America, and Americans, they went where? They went right back up to the east.
That's actually not true, because
my goodness.
So what makes them black, right? What makes them black?
Well, here's the thing. So that's not true. So here's the thing. Number one, 85% of the world is melanated. Get that right there. So there is no special type of black. If you go to Southeast Asia, they're dark skinned. If you go to Africa, obviously they're dark skinned. If you go to Arabia, they're dark skinned. If you go to the natives in America, they were dark skinned. So it's nothing special about black. Now, here's another fact. If you look at Indians, native Indians, guess what? They lack, as well as the Asians that come from that Bering Strait, they lack a gene that can break down alcohol. Africans and Europeans can. So they won't be us if they can't break down alcohol the way we can break down alcohol. And they can break down lactose a different way we break down lactose.
Lactose and alcoholic consumption theories.
No. You were all saying that there was black people removed from America that were natives and brought over there. That's not true. I would say that there were melanated people, but melanated people don't mean they black. They
what I'm saying is that you have the transversal triangle, right? You know how we say transatlantic, just from east to west.
So let me tell you why that's not likely. Because did you know that slavery in America didn't get started till 1619? So early on, the slaves actually came to Central and South America. That's why Brazil is 50-something% black. And now, later on in the slave trade, black Americans came here. Check this out. They were indentured servants.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. So one of the first servants that came here by employment. They didn't come here by slave trade the way that they talk about the Central America and all that. Because America didn't have no product. There was sugar cane. There was stuff like that.
We did have products. We did.
No, that was later when corn got popular and then cotton got popular. That was later in the slave trade. Bro, only 1 million, little over 1 million slaves came to America.
If that's true, there's too many. How do you say? We have corn on the east, like in Africa and like all this stuff. We have cocaine over on the other side of the world. We have too many things that are only grown here that are on that side. Listen, this is a fact.
Bro, listen. We want listen. Okay, so you're talking about coca leaves and stuff, man. You're talking about Central South America, bro. You're a black American. That means your family came here after 1700s.
So that's it. What I'm saying is that's your story, and it's fine. I'm saying that all the research I've done makes that not true. Because listen, first of all, 5% of the slave trade went to America. Only 5%.
That's what I'm saying. It was later too. It was much later.
Well,
it was later, bro. Look it up. The late in the transatlantic slave trade was when we got here in America. Before that, blacks were hitting Central and South America way before we even got here to America.
And the Americans, though, so you know they were hitting it like hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus, right? What makes you think they were not hitting it up here?
What are you talking about? Okay, you're mixing stuff up.
Can I ask Wright something?
You sure?
What makes you black? What do you think makes you black? What feature or whatever about your culture makes you black?
I would say, culturally wise, it would be the soul food, it would be the afro, it would be the music, and it would be the dance.
Okay, so how did we define black? How black define?
I just did.
Anyone who did that? Anyone who did that was black.
Yes, because it only starts and it comes from here. Absolutely. Like rap. Rap is only from here.
It's Gilly too. So
yeah. Okay, so the Native Americans are also black?
No, yes, they were black Native Americans.
Yes. All of them were black.
No, they were not. So listen, everybody knows they were black Native Americans.
No,
Let him go with this for. I'm just trying to get an understanding because I know these people exist, but I've never actually talked to one. I'm a bit intrigued.
Yeah, but don't you think it's better when two black Americans have that conversation amongst themselves rather than, we come in the middle as Africans?
No.
I'm just trying to talk to him.
Let's go. Let's all talk.
If he's okay with talking to me, then I don't see the issue. If Ryan doesn't want to talk to me as a African, someone from Africa, that's fine. I'll lay back. But
sisters, please, let's talk. Absolutely.
Okay, so if you're saying that not all of the Native Americans were black, then what makes you black?
So first of all, there was a light skin, the straight hair, the fair skinned Indians that you see today. To me, they look like Mexicans mixed with Asians, without the racism. And we look like we look today. Mind you, we mix with a lot of things, but we still look the same way today. Small noses, afro hair, bronze skin.
So where do you think you got those features from? If you're living in the same country and you come from the same place?
Well, I truly believe that we've been mixing for a long time, like everybody has. And I think we keep our original detailed features.
Okay.
Like, I would say this, like when you see Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Somalian, you know they're not from West Africa. Would you agree with that?
Right.
And that's all I'm saying is that there's certain things that between the Asians, it stays consistent for whatever reason.